we're going to talk today about psychics and what that's all about. But I'm thinking, I don't want to know. You know, I got a call from, is it Henry Louis Gates who does the genealogy stuff? Yeah. They called me and said, would you like to do it? Would you like to be on the show? And I went, no. I don't want to know.
You know what? I salute you for that. Because, you know, in our life, the thing they would find would be the
what
most
are they going to find? You absolutely.
It'd be like direct line.
Or I'm going to have 7 cousins that suddenly go, oh, he's our cousin. Well, you know, hey.
Nothing good.
I'm trying to buy a...
Here's what I would hear if you went on the show. Here's what I would hear if I went on the show. Peter, it's Jason. I'm going by a different name now. I'm living in Jersey. I'm in the witness protection program.
Right, yeah.
Well, you know what? It's like the talking dog episode. Remember? I said if I had a talking dog, I would put it on America's Got Talent with Howie, and the dog would be... whatever it would be, it would reflect horribly
on you. Surely you taught this dog to say this. Yeah, right.
So it's that kind of thing. We don't have that kind of luck. So you're right. The psychic
and
thing.
So the people go, I want to know, is there going to be, am I going to be rich? Are you going to be rich? Yeah, get off your butt and do something to earn some money.
We used to do, wait.
Am I going to die young? What do I want to know that a psychic is going to tell me? I don't want to know.
We used to do a motivational call called Donnie Clay is going to show you the way to find the you that's inside of you that's holding you back, okay? Right. And one of the things we used to do is Donnie Clay's 4 words to guaranteed income.
Right. You'll increase your income 10%, 25%, 50%, maybe even 100%. Double your income in 4 words. And not a program, not an exercise, not a book. Double your income in 4 words. Everybody, and I'd get the whole audience worked up about it.
We'd say F you money, and the audience would be screaming, we want F you money. Right. And we'd bring some guy up from the audience, and we'd show him a picture of a yacht and say, you want that? And he'd say, yeah, Jason Smack. And go, what are you going to do with a yacht? You're already wasting money. Why would I make you after we've milked this thing.
And I could get out your pencils, get out your pens. Here are the 4 words.
4 words.
To double or triple your income over. Ready? Here they are. Get a second job.
There you go. Guaranteed, right?
Guaranteed.
Or if the guy was clumsy, he'd say, or fall off the stage, and Caesars will owe you some money. Yeah, the psychic thing never did it for me, but the really started when I said to you, if people who don't know Southern California, the wealthiest neighborhoods are like Brentwood, Beverly Hills, Pacific Palisades, where the Mid-Wilshire area, and all.
Sure.
And you have psychics. They all have storefronts in those locations,
yeah,
which are the highest rent storefronts in the world. They have them in Manhattan.
To open a Baskin Robbins in those places would be hundreds of thousands.
You got to sell 8 million ice creams a day, and they're closed.
Just for the rent. Yeah.
By the way, all these stores closed during COVID. Neon sign psychics, Manhattan, Midtown Manhattan.
Well, the overhead is much like you got a woman on a couch. That's all you need. A woman sitting in a window on a couch.
It's a fortune. So that begged the question: is how much money does a psychic make? We have a guy, Bob Nygaard, who was a PI, who got a retired PI.
Yeah.
And we got to ask him about being a transit cop. That must be a trip.
Yeah.
In New York and New Jersey.
But
who decided to go after psychic crimes because his feeling was that the police and the legal system, the worst they do is they go after them for reparations, but they don't go to jail. They maybe pay back some stuff, but it's a multi-billion-dollar a year crime.
Right, and you victim shame because you go, who's stupid enough to believe this? Who's falling for this?
And just like sex crimes, I'm wondering with Bob if a lot of these people are too embarrassed to say that they were ripped off too. So it's a crime where they and I want to know if it's a desperate victim, it's somebody who's died. They also do these crimes where somebody believes that they were cursed. The amount of money some of these people are able to
here's one. There was a person named Patrice Runner from Canada. And this is amazing. Built over 1 million people. Over 20 years, built over 1 million people out of a grand total of $175 million. Really? He represented that he was working for known psychics Maria Duvall and Patrick Gurin, who were not involved at all, but he represented that he knew them.
You saw the psychics' names. Wow.
And then, and that he was sending letters of referral, saying, you send me the questions, I'll consult with them, and I'll get you the answers. and made promises of guaranteed wealth and happiness to people, and built them out of $175 million. So this is not
Where's
like
that person
petty
today?
crime. They caught him, and they're behind bars.
I'm really interested to see what Mr. Nygaard,
Well, yes.
why he decided. I know why he decided it. Same reason we're outraged by this and taking advantage.
Yeah.
But how he did it, because he's helped people recover millions and millions of dollars, and has been involved in every kind of psychic scam there is. Knows how to go after these people. So we'll meet him in a minute.
Really? No, really? Really? No, really? Really?
We were just saying, Bob, that first of all, welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
You're nuts.
I was going to dress that way today too. It's amazing.
Yeah, I left my fedora in the car. I can
got
run
up and
out.
said, "Wow, you really."
I'm always prepared.
Can I ask you a question? You're a private investigator.
Right.
Do you blend in this outfit?
No, I don't blend well. But when
Wait, Bob. Somebody, wait, hold on. Yeah.
If I was sitting in a restaurant, I would go, I think there's a
Somebody's
private
following.
investigator sitting at the next table.
There's somebody following you. How can you tell? The
He's
guy
got a
with the fedora. Do you ever dress down?
Sam Spade is at the next table. How do you
ever hear the phrase "sore thumb"?
well, what I do is I do wear disguises and go into fortune-telling parlors.
Do you really?
You know, dressed in different guys, you know, baseball hats and different things like that.
I love you already because you call them parlors.
Yeah.
Parlors.
Yeah, fortune-telling parlors. yeah, exactly. Yeah, what I do is I go in, I wear various like recording devices. Okay, so you have like recording glasses, watches, you know, all kind of pens, you know, all kinds of different things, like spy equipment, if you will.
Great. God, I love this.
And then I go in and I make believe I'm a client, and I let them rip me off. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, does that have? So, okay. Can I ask one? This is not the sexiest question, but the legality of this. I tried to discern. Some states, it's legal, but you have to say you're an entertainer. Some states, it's illegal.
What way in the states that are illegal? What's the illegal?
That you're telling people that you're
You can't represent that you are a psychic.
No, I don't.
Right. For example, in the state of New York,
Yeah.
it's per se it's against the law. You cannot tell fortunes for a fee and say that you can influence evil spirits and stuff like that. Same with Pennsylvania. I think Oklahoma might have that, but the majority of
It's
states,
amazing that all states, the other states went, we're good with it.
We can do that.
Right, the majority of states, like California, right? You can
yeah.
do it. You know,
Yeah.
you take money from someone, you tell their fortune, there's no crime committed there per se.
Right.
But what happens is, generally what happens is, you have a person that walks into one of these fortune-telling parlors off the street, and they go in and they're vulnerable because they're going through a difficult time in their life. Okay, so they're going through love, money, and health are the three big things. So their boyfriend broke up with them, their husband left them, their wife left them, their kid has cancer, you know, they just lost their job. So then they walk in off the street vulnerable, and the psychic does what's called a cold reading. Okay, cold reading is when someone comes in off the street cold. They look for verbal and nonverbal clues. They see, is this person here just on a lark? They just are here to just, you know, do a $50 reading and want to just for entertainment,
Sure.
or is it that they have a serious problem going on? So they're able to pick up on the people that have the really serious problems, the people that are vulnerable. And then they say, you know something, I see a darkness around you. I see a certain negativity. I see something plaguing you. You should be further in your life than you are right now, but there's something holding you back. I see that you're a good person. You always do for others, but others don't always do for you. And then they start to throw out these, you know, like get to know the person, and the person starts to open up. And say, oh, I lost my job. Oh, my husband left me. And then they start to repeat things back to the person in a way that makes the person think that they are psychic, but they're actually giving the psychic the information, the self-proclaimed psychic. Then they say, now that we've established that there's this negativity, what we need to do is I need to do deeper research. I need you to write your name down, and I need you to write your date of birth down, and write his name down and your boyfriend's date of birth. So now we go from a cold reading situation to a hot reading situation, where when the person leaves, they're now going to research on the internet this person and learn all about them. So we went from cold reading to hot reading. Then what they do is they say, you know, before you leave, we have to do deeper research. I have to get crystals and candles, but that's going to be $800. The initial reading is a nominal fee, maybe $50, $100. But now all of a sudden it's $800 or $900. Then what they say is come back to see me, And they say, upon doing the deeper research, I see that there's a curse that's been placed on you. It's a generational curse, and it's been on your family. And what happened is, back when your father was dating your mother, he was seeing another woman, and he decided to marry your mother instead of that other woman. And what happened is that other woman put a curse on your family, and it passed to you when you were in your mother's womb. And it's been on you. You're 30 years old, been on you for the last 30 years. We have to undo this curse, or it'll pass on to you and your children's children, and it forever. You're the one in your family that has to stop this. You're the one that has the power to stop this. So they put this like pressure on the person. Then they tell the person, so now we got established that there's this darkness, there's this curse, but then they want them to do a ritual. You need to go home, you need to get $30,000 out of the bank because you're 30 years old. We have to undo each year of your age, get $1,000, $30,000, put it under the bed. But I need
And
you
the guy doesn't say, well, why isn't it $1 a year? Let's do $30.
Yeah, no, they go for the big money at this
Before they
point.
go, I don't want to stop your riff, but does the fortune teller at some point do an investigation to see if their time is valuable, because they could be doing something, how much money this person has?
Yeah, well, they look at what kind of car does the person drive up in, okay? What is the person wearing? Do they have expensive jewelry on? This is part of the cold reading.
I didn't mean to slow you. So now we're at 30,000.
Right, so now we're at 30,000. Now they say you got to go to the store, grocery store, and get a carton of eggs and take one egg out and put the egg under the bed with the money, because money is the root of all evil, and we need to attract the evil. Will want to go to the money. So now the evil's going to go to the money. When you sleep at night, call me up. We'll say some prayers from the Bible. They use a lot of religious terminology. This is God. I'm doing God's work. God wants me to help you. I was put here to help you. It's not about money, but you got to get $30,000 and put the money under the bed. So now the person does this, gets the egg, and the reason we need the egg is because the evil's going to go to the money, be attracted to the money, but we need to trap it in something. So we trap it in the egg because the egg represents the soul.
Sure.
And then what happens is,
I'm with you. All
right.
the way.
So
Yeah.
now,
the vision of where that egg's
So
going to go.
far,
right,
I'm in.
right, okay.
And then take the egg and do what?
Yeah, so now the
Yeah.
psychic
Right.
calls up the person in the middle of the night. Oh, we've angered the spirits. The spirits have gone to the egg. The person, come into my office. That goes to the office, what they call office. They go there to the fortune-telling parlor. The room is dark, they say, look, take the egg, put it in this bag, and they'll have a bag there, or a cloth that they're holding in their hand. Put it in the cloth. Then they do sleight of hand. They already have an egg that they've doctored up. They've injected some cayenne pepper into it, or red dye into the egg, or they put a little black snake in there, and they say, put the egg in the bag, or put the egg in the cloth. The person puts it in. They say, oh, it won't break, and they're like trying to hit it, and an egg should break. So now they're like being really dramatic, and then they pull it out, and they hit it, and all of a sudden blood comes flying out, or the snake is there. They say, oh, this is the curse that manifested itself. This is the evil. And now, once they get over that hurdle, now we start to go on and on and on, where we need to do more work. We need more money. The evil is worse than I thought
how
it
does
was.
the 30,000 under the bed
The
now wind up in the
30,000,
hands of the
right?
psychic?
So the psychic says, as soon as they hit the thing, the egg, and the blood comes out, they say, you got to get out of here right away. You got to leave, because my family's in jeopardy. You're in jeopardy. The evil. I got to take the money. I got to take it to my church, to the altar, and I got to cleanse the money of the evil. And then next week, I'm going to give you the money back. Don't worry. But once I cleanse it of the evil. So herein lies the crime. The person is not paying $30,000 to remove a curse. They're just giving the psychic the $30,000 to hold temporarily, thinking it's going to be cleansed and returned.
So the crime is money laundering.
Money laundering. There you go. Exactly.
Wait a minute. I could say that was a $30,000 egg. That's right. So,
Wow.
do the psychics then keep it going, or do they move?
So they
now
keep
I'm back
it
for
going.
my 30 grand.
So so now when the person comes back the next week and they're like, "Where's my 30 grand?" Oh, you don't realize this problem is much worse than I thought it was. And what we need you to do is we need you to go get some more money, because money is power, and I need to accumulate power through the money. And I got to put that.
Going.
I have to put it in a special room at my church at the altar, and I keep accumulating it until we get enough where I can defeat and vanquish the evil. Now we have a principle, psychological principle, the sunk cost fallacy. Once someone starts putting money into something, there's a psychological principle that you'd rather keep sinking money into it,
Get it back.
than say,
I'm a
"Uh-oh,
schmuck,
I got scammed."
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it's just human psychology that they're using.
I don't know if you know this. Do you know the percentages on that scam, that kind of scam, who at some point before the 30 grand or 30 grand are out, is it 50%? Is it 70%? Or if somebody's willing to go to 30%, it's $30,000. It's a personality type that I can get to 150,000, that I can get to 300,000.
I've got cases I'm working on, a couple right now, well over $1 million.
$1 million bucks.
Well over
that
$1
started
million.
this way.
That started
and kept. How long was the person involved with the psychic? To get
I've
the
had
money?
ones that went on for 6 months and ones went on for 12 years. A lot of times it's a long-term offense where what happens is they start the person off by saying, oh, we need to keep going. You need to get money out of the bank. Once they take all the money out of the bank account, then they say you need to take out loans. I'll give you some companies.
Oh, my God.
Now they say you need to go open up credit cards at Bloomingdale's and Macy's and Nordstrom's. You need to go open up credit cards because they know that they'll have $5,000 credit on the card, and then they say you need to give me gift cards with the credit from the credit cards.
And do they eventually, is the end game, once they get it, they disappear?
So yeah, at the end of it, once the person comes around and says, "Uh-oh, I've hit rock bottom. I'm wiped out. I've borrowed money from family members. I've wiped out my bank account. I opened up credit cards and maxed them out. I took out loans. I lied to family members and got money from them. So it affects other people, this crime too, not just the individual. And then they hit rock bottom, and then they call me. And a lot of times people are suicidal.
When you are able to get these people into court, so now they're charged, now you're in the legal system. I imagine that there is some burden, maybe I'm wrong, to prove fraud. Which to me, if I understand correctly, and I'm sure I don't, means that you've got to prove that this so-called psychic knew they were defrauding, as opposed to having them go, listen, it worked or it didn't work, but I believed in what I was doing. I was doing the work that I was being compensated for. How did I mean? Does
so that's
that
a very
play into it?
No, that's a very important question. So, what you do is I build a case, and I build it based on a totality of facts and circumstances. So, starting off, a lot of times the psychic lies about their name. Okay, when I go to Best Buy to buy a TV set, and the guy has Mike on his name, he's not Jose, he's not Paul, he's Mike. Right. So when you go to these psychics, they're never using their real name. Well, not never, but a lot of times they're not using their real name. And then when they say, "Hey, we need to do this egg trick," I mean that's something I've seen over and over again. Or they do a magic trick where you have to bring in a jar and spit in the jar, and then I'm going to put water in the jar, and then they make the water turn red or black. So when you start off with you're lying about your name, you start off with then a progression of fees, okay? You're using a scripted story about the father was seeing another woman. I've heard that a million times, that same scripted story. I've gone into psychics and I've seen a woman reading the script off her leg on a piece of paper. A young psychic was reading the script. So when you add up the fake name, the progression of fees, the magic trick to prove the existence of a curse,
You build that case.
you're building the case so that a jury of 12 people at the end of the day is going to say, well, you needed a certain amount of money and you'd complete it in 3 months, but now all of a sudden you need more.
Right.
And so, and then you have different ways of theft, which people don't understand. So, like one time I had a case with the feds, and the feds had this huge multi-million-dollar case. And they call me up and they say, "Hey, Bob, we see that you've been successsul." And they were worried about just what you're talking about. I could see when I was in a room sitting with all these agents and prosecutors, they were like, well, she's going to go to trial. Like, how are we going to prove whether she's psychic or not, And I said, time out. Hold on. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. You're off in the wrong direction. I said, let's say Bob is a psychic. Let's just say psychic ability exists. Bob's a psychic. And Bob says to Joe, "Hey, Joe, you know what? I see that you're going to be in a terrible car accident next week. And you're going to die in that car accident because your car is possessed by evil spirits." And Joe says, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know if Bob's really psychic or not. But I don't want to die in a car accident, And Joe says, "Listen, just give me your car for 1 week. I'll take it to my church. I'll have some people at the church. We'll all pray over it. We'll remove the evil spirits. Come back next Friday here in the parking lot. I'll give you your car back." Joe says, "You know what? I'd rather give Bob the car than take the chance." Joe gives Bob the car. Bob's gone. Next Friday comes. Bob's nowhere to be found. The car is gone, right? So I looked around the room and I said to everybody in the room, I said, "Did Bob steal Joe's car?" And they said, "Well, yeah, Bob stole Joe's car. There's no question." I said, "But Bob's psychic, right?" And they said, "Well, yeah, we said Bob's a psychic." I said, so if Bob stole Joe's car and Bob's a psychic, I said, obviously, a psychic commit theft. It's not about whether the person is psychic. They're like, oh, really? It doesn't even matter whether Bob is psychic or not. I said, welcome to the game.
But that's one of the
theft
things.
by false promise.
One of the
Right,
things
right,
that I read
gotcha.
about you, which why I wanted you in, was the insanity of trying to get law enforcement, who's, I get it, overburdened already with crimes, to take this stuff seriously. That a lot of times it's just remuneration, no jail time, unless it's so egregious like Jason. We started out with one, 175 million, where you're doing a long-term multi-person scam with email, etc. Today with the internet, I mean, you can find out a lot about a lot of people. The ones you investigate, what percentage do not just remuneration but end up in jail with real punishment?
A good percentage actually either do a plea bargain to pay the money back so they stay out of jail. That's really what they do. Or they go to jail. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of the two.
But they destroy lives. And is it always the personality of the victim? The through line is always, you said, it's either love, something
Money
horrible
or
in their
health.
life, whatever. Is there embarrassment where they don't want to, up to a certain point, admit that they've been scammed?
Absolutely. Like there's other things that the psychic tells them right from the start. Don't talk about the work with anybody because if you do, the work will fail or someone in your family will die. They isolate the victim from friends and family. So that's another hallmark that you start off with when you're proving the case. What did the psychic tell you? I mean, I go to Best Buy, I buy a TV set. The guy doesn't tell me, the salesman doesn't say, don't tell anybody about the TV set you just bought.
Wait, so the other question I have is that these people now have been taken by somebody. Now you come in with your fedora and your suit.
Right.
Aren't they skeptical of the next guy to say, I'm going to help you out? Don't you have to overcome that?
Yes, absolutely. They call me up and they're like, oh, Bob, are you really the real deal? Like,
You don't, if you say, give me 30,000, put it under your bed and an egg, because
Right.
I'm going to get your money back, I'm going to blow my brains out.
Yeah.
So how do you win confidence of people?
Well, I went on ABC 2020. So when you're on a show like that and in the media, you get notoriety, I guess. And so that's part of the credibility. Or newspaper, the New York Times or the Post.
Now,
you know.
I realize this is not a one-for-one equivalent, but there are lots of psychics on television with their own shows, being interviewed, being treated with legitimacy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is setting the scene for all these con artists,
Gives you
because you've
credibility.
got these people that are being given enormous credibility, enormous remuneration. I mean, I'm going to assume you don't believe any of this.
Yeah, no, I don't happen to believe in
Right.
it. Yeah.
Thank
to what degree do you hold the and please, our audience, I'll talk later about my own experiences, so I don't mean to dump on anybody, but when you see a John Edward or a Tyler Henry or Teresa Caputo and they're being treated as legitimate people with ability, what's the feeling towards that?
Yeah,
I mean,
I've
because
never-
they're compounding the problem for the people that you have to deal with.
Yeah, see, I've never dealt with any of those particular people.
Yeah.
So I've never investigated them, so I can't speak to them.
Sure, I'm
you
not,
know?
and I'm not
Right.
saying they're not legitimate,
Right.
but they do give legitimacy to people that are full of it.
Right. Yeah.
So you were a transit cop,
Right.
and then were you looking for a relationship? You're single, if we got this right, and you went sitting in a bar talking to two women.
Right.
One's a doctor,
Yeah.
and they leave, and the doctor, who I'm guessing you thought maybe there's something there, called you.
Absolutely.
You think there's going to be a relationship, and she's saying, I need help. I need
Yeah,
help.
I
bust
pull
a
up.
sucker.
I thought, it's a happy hour.
Yeah,
it's
love
the
connection.
pickup spot
Right,
in
yeah.
Boca Raton, Florida. It's the 4 o'clock
doctor.
happy hour. And she says, hey, listen, can I meet you? I didn't want to say nothing in front of my coworker who's the nurse. I said, great, let's meet up. So we meet up, and then she hits me with, Bob, I'm really embarrassed about this, but I'm a medical doctor, And a lot of the times, the clients are very, very intelligent people, lawyers, doctors, CEOs of companies, professional athletes and celebrities. Like, I have lots of clients from all walks of life, teachers, college professors. And, and she said, she was ripped off. So I built the case for her and helped her get the money back, But
And it didn't happen. No love connection.
And no one. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I'm imagining that the average person has very little sympathy for your clients.
Right. So like an NYPD cop one day, I called him about a psychic. I had a victim with me, and a psychic ran into an apartment, and I said, hey, listen, the psychic ripped her off and for like $50,000, and the psychic just ran into an apartment, and we want to get a report and make an arrest. And he looks, he says, come here. He brings me away from the victim, and he says, you know something, Bob? He goes, it's her own fault for going in there and believing in this in the first place. He goes, nobody put a gun to her head. And I said to him, yeah, you know something, you're right. If it was a gun to her head, it'd be a robbery. But it's not a robbery. And you're a cop, and you should know better. It's theft by deception. And there's a specific portion of the law that's, for theft by deception. It's not always, there's a lot of nonviolent crimes that go on with consensual crimes, such as this, where the people are willingly, but they're tricked into giving their money. You can't consent to something you're tricked into doing, you see? And so my forte, really, I'll tell you what my forte is fighting with police and prosecutors because they have a negative attitude. And I worked with guys like that. And I don't want to give a blanket. There's plenty of good cops and prosecutors, or I wouldn't have got the cases that I've done. But there's a lot of fighting that goes on in terms of me going at them and bringing people back into a station house that were turned away and were laughed at and told it's a civil matter. If I had $1 for every time cops and prosecutors told someone it's a civil matter, I'd be the richest man. I'd be richer than Bill Gates. So I have the ability to go in and say, you know something? This is the con that comes after the con. The person comes in here and you con them into believing it's a civil matter, so you don't have to take your pen out of your pocket and take a report. So you could go back to eating lunch, And so I could use my credibility from my law enforcement experience of being a cop for 21 years. And I say, listen, I took reports. I know what your job is. I know what you're supposed to do. So knock it off. We want a report. And then you get to the desk officer and you got to talk to the sergeant, and then it goes upstairs to a detective, and then a detective comes down and he tries to talk the person out of it. And at the end of the day, I get the report, and then I get it through, and then I got to deal with the prosecutor's office.
Give us what a case looks like where you're undercover and it was one that blew your mind even.
Well, I just would say, like, the story-wise, I'll give you a story-wise. Like, they come up with these elaborate stories. So I had this lawyer who was ripped off by a psychic, and she was told that she was part of a group of 12, and that it represented like the 12 disciples of Christ, and that she was one of the people
this
in there.
This is already good.
Yeah,
I told you.
right.
This is. I thought Henry Louis Gates was going to tell me. I was Genghis Khan or something.
So then she's told that she needs to poke holes in the condom when having sex with her boyfriend, because she needs to give birth to a child.
Sure.
And it's going to be twins. And the reason it's going to be twins is because she's going to give birth to the baby that's going to save the world from the Antichrist and do battle with the Antichrist. Sure. And one twin is a decoy and the other is the actual baby.
Oh,
so this poor girl is poking holes in condoms and having sex, trying to have a baby because the psychic told her that she's supposed to save the world. Like, this is the crazy stories that go on.
So what's your disguise to go in and confront this person?
No, I didn't wear a disguise on that one. I'm just giving you an example. But
that's insane. Now, okay, disguise-wise.
That's really.
Not that I'm pursuing this anymore for the pilot.
No, I understand.
But what kind of disguises do you have? I can't even
imagine.
Well,
one time I walked in like a Hasidic Jew with the curls down and the big black hat and all of that, and so I used that as a disguise. Yeah.
Always a hat?
Yeah, a lot of times I got a hat.
Well, now, let me just in the abstract. Why would that persona have appeal to that particular psychic?
Because they will go and move it in any direction as long as you have a vulnerability.
Something clear. Okay.
Right. And they will say, if they see, like, I'm wearing a cross right now, they'll think, oh, he's a Christian, so I'll cater it to that. If someone is Jewish, they'll know, stay away from mentioning Jesus.
Yes.
You see, these people are very astute at picking out the things that they see in somebody and then going and running with those things.
Are they trained? Is there like is it like a family business? And
it's a network of people all across this country in various cities. There's networks that exist.
Who's Mr. Big?
Well, you have networks, okay, and you have family-based where like grandmothers will teach daughters how to do it and daughters will teach their daughters how to do it. And you have families who the daughter will actually be sold into another family where they have like a meeting and they get together and they say, okay, arranged marriages when I say sold, okay, arranged marriages, and they come up with like a dowry. And that's what I mean by sold. So they'll say, okay, you know, we'll take her into our family, and then we'll give you a certain amount of money, and then she becomes part of our family, and she starts doing the fortune telling. And a lot of times, these fortune telling places, you see these little rundown places with the bad curtains and the shabbily dressed. And then they leave there, and sometimes they go to a house that's a multi-million-dollar house that the people that are going there are unaware of, and they're driving around in Bentleys and you know.
So
It's
there is
almost always a
Lamborghinis.
woman, right? It's almost always a
Mostly it's women, that do this. The fortune
Is that
telling.
because we're more naturally inclined to trust a woman?
I'm not quite sure what that is. You know,
It's wild because
Yeah.
the ones that I've dealt with, which I'll talk about later, have been men.
But you got them under recommendation, and they weren't trying
I had
to
a totally-
scam-
yeah, totally
different thing.
Yeah,
This is, what if, do you get nervous? Did you ever get nervous doing one? Is there one where you were really at risk, Bob, where you were for fear of your life, or no?
no, I'm never nervous by it because I did so much stuff as a cop. You know,
Are you armed when you do these things?
sometimes yes, sometimes no. Depends on the state that I'm in.
And again, the definitive on there is with some of these or an organization behind it.
Well, what we have
whether
is
it's family or whatever.
Let me give you an example. In some big cities, they have what they call a 3-block rule. Okay, where you cannot open up a fortune-telling parlor within 3 blocks of another fortune-telling parlor. Because if you do, then you have a beef, and that beef has to go before a council of elders, who then decide who's right and who's wrong on that territory. So you've got carved out territories.
this is
You've
a
got,
series. Oh,
you've
this is
got
a series.
people. You got
Oh, my
people who are
God.
saying this is my town, and when they move out of a certain town, they sell it, that town or that territory.
They sell their block.
Their block to somebody else. Like a drug dealer has a corner, and the same thing. They have their spot, they have their territory, they have like I said, they have like elders, council of elders. They settle the disputes among themselves. They don't go to law enforcement a lot of times. They'll settle the disputes.
Have you ever
within
gone
themselves.
that high up where you managed to get somebody who was running the deal busted?
I've just, the unfortunate thing is that mostly the women are the ones that always take the heat because they're the ones on the front line.
Right.
And then they're giving the money to the men in the community who are then, like sitting back.
Couldn't somebody work to say, if you're going to establish yourself as a fortune teller, you must have a certain kind of license?
That's what I often say to people is people are making life decisions based upon what someone with a neon sign is telling them to do. And I'm going to go to a Seinfeld episode where George goes to the psychic, and you were in the show where you're going to go and you go with Elaine and you go to a psychic, right? And you're going to go on a trip to the Cayman Islands, and you're all excited about this trip to the Cayman Islands, but the psychic gives the idea that you're going to maybe die in a plane crash.
Right.
So you end up giving up the trip to the Cayman Islands to Kramer because you're worried that you're going to die in this plane crash. Now, you made a life decision. It's comedy, right? It's all, but in real life, people are making life decisions. In the show, Kramer goes on the trip.
Right,
And he
has
meets
the
all
time
these
of his life.
time of his life with Sports Illustrated models who are nude on the beach. And he comes back and you're like distraught over the fact that you gave up the trip of a lifetime.
Yeah.
But what people are doing is people are going to these psychics in real life. They're giving up marriages. The psychic is saying, divorce your husband because they know they're going to get the divorce settlement, and then the divorce settlement will go to the psychic. They're telling them to change their wills. They're telling them not to send kids to college because it's bad to go to the college because they know the money will then go towards the college. I mean, there's all kinds of things. They're telling them, don't go to the doctor to get treatment, and then the person is ending up like losing their leg over the fact that they listened to a psychic. So, people are investing a lot of faith and hope and trust in making very, very life-changing decisions in someone that puts up a neon sign. So to get to your point, I say to people, you go to the doctor, you see, does he have a medical degree? You go to a lawyer, did he go to law school? But yet you walk in and you're going to give millions of dollars to someone that,
And there, I
has a
guess
neon
there's
sign.
no way. I mean, I know there's I don't want to name it by name, even if I had it right. But there's a phone psychic company in California who's in their ads. They say, if what we tell you is not potent in your life, if it's not life changing in some way, if it doesn't prove to be true, your money back. And I'm going, well, how are they?
I just heard that the
How do
other
you-
day. I just heard it when I was driving in the car.
Yeah.
And I think there's huge illegal disclaimers probably with that whole
sure.
thing.
Yeah.
And so
I mean, you know what? As we wrap up here, I'm very curious about. I was talking about a person I knew who was involved in a romance scam. Realized that they had sent a lot of money away. The FBI then got involved, confirmed it was a romance scam, and that person ended up still connecting after the fact and was sucked back in. Have you seen it happen with you where you help somebody bust somebody, they've taken $1 million and $70,000, $800,000, and afterwards they're still drawn to go back psychologically to that person?
not to the same person, but I have seen it on a couple of occasions where they went to see another psychic, and I was like kind of distraught over that because I was
they're
like,
that broken.
after everything that you went through and everything we went through building this case, like, and you still go, you know, like to another psychic?
Because there's something lacking that
But
they
there's
need.
certain communities where, you know, like, I don't want to generalize or whatever, but there's certain communities, like I have a lot of Chinese clients. There's a lot of superstition, Indian clients where they have prayer rooms and stuff. And so there's certain communities.
Certain cultures have built-in ghosts and
right.
Yes.
Like some of my younger Chinese clients, their relatives over, like their grandparents, go to see fortune tellers in China. But it's not this exploitive type of a thing, from what I understand. It's just they go there, they pay the $50, and that's the end.
What's
of
the
it.
most, before, as we wrap up, what's the most that you saw somebody gave that completely blew you away?
The most that I was involved in was when I helped the feds with, like, one woman was a best-selling author, and she gave $17 million approximately to the psychic. Psychic ended up getting...
Whoa, hold on. Let me sit with that for a minute.
No, really.
I got to tell you something. If they have a psychic award show where they honor psychics, it's like Betty Lou, who got $17 million.
Right.
Oh, my God.
And
How
there was
long?
there was multiple victims, and it went on for like 10 years or so, or maybe even more. And the psychic was not the psychic, the victim was a best-selling author. And people say, well, Bob, how could one person give $17 million, you know? Well, the woman had a series of miscarriages, trying to have a child. Then she had problems, marriage problems, and also, you know, trying to have a child and everything that's going on with that. And then she adopted a little boy, Sam. And when Sam was around 8 years old, he died in a tragic ATV motorcycle accident. And so she went to see Rose Marks in New York, and Rose says, you know, I can reunite you with the little boy's soul, and something to that effect, or, you know, the devil is pulling the little boy into purgatory, or something to that effect. You know, preying on this mother's vulnerability over having lost her adopted son after she had all these, you know, trying to have a child herself. And when you see something like that, it angers you. And you know, Houdini was big into,
big psychic buster.
He was a psychic debunker. And, you know, he was big into debunking the people during the spiritualist movement.
Right.
And the spiritualist movement, a lot of people don't realize, came about when the Spanish flu came about, because a lot of people had died in the Spanish flu, and that they attribute that to the rise of spiritualism, because so many people wanted to talk to their deceased loved ones. Now, right now, I have an uptick in cases because of the pandemic, COVID.
Right.
So I'm getting slammed with cases that are just coming in now, where people have been slammed over the last 2, 3, 4 years, and then they're just hitting rock bottom now, you know? But it's really serious because, you know, the police and law enforcement doesn't take nonviolent crimes seriously, but yet nonviolent crimes could have a drastic effect on somebody's life. A woman
billions
calls
of
me.
dollars, right?
Woman
Billions.
calls me, Bob. About $90,000, Bob. I live in Queens, New York. Me and my husband, we don't have much. $90,000 over 3 months. It's money we saved for our daughter's college education, and now I can't send her to college. Like, what am I going to do? And I said, well, ma'am, you know, I've been successful in New York. I'm successful over the country, but, you know, I've had some cases in New York. I think I could probably help you, given the fact pattern and everything. And she's like, but you don't understand, Bob. And I said, well, no, I do. No, Bob, you don't understand. And I said, well, and the voice started to crack. And I said, well, no, I mean, what don't I understand? She says, Bob, I'm on the 8th floor. I'm on my lunch break. I think I should just take that one step. I'm on the ledge. I think I should just take that one step and end it all. I can't go home and face them. I had to talk that woman off the ledge, you know? So this is serious, you know? Within the last year, I had 2 families call me and said their daughters committed suicide because, and they had given money, all their money to a psychic, and they just felt so distraught. Yeah. So, you know, I don't mean to be a bummer or downer, but it's just
serious.
It's serious. And then
Very
people
serious.
go to law enforcement, and then they get turned away and laughed at, and there's a blame the victim mentality.
Yeah.
Like, I had a prosecutor the other day say to a victim and myself during a phone call, well, this isn't something that a reasonable person, we can't prosecute this. And I said, why can't you prosecute it? And he said, well, this isn't something that a reasonable person would believe. And this woman was told that there was a curse that had been placed on her. It wasn't anything like crazy other than that. And so I said, well, what do you mean? He says, listen, he says, if I walked up to somebody on the street and I told them that I'm going to sell you this car that could fly to the moon, and they pay me $20,000, that's not something we can prosecute, because a reasonable person would not believe that a car could fly to the moon. And I said, do you know that you're supposed to protect vulnerable people? Do you know that it's no defense to a charge of false pretense that the victim shouldn't have believed it?
Right.
Okay. I said, who are you to judge what someone should or shouldn't believe? You know, there's someone that sold the Eiffel Tower to people twice. Okay. If I sold someone a Brooklyn Bridge and they gave me their money, that means that person shouldn't have been arrested? Like, who's to say, you know? So I said, you don't know the law. You're turning your back on this victim, and it's not right. And the problem when law enforcement turns their back on victims, or police and prosecutors, is it's not like going to Joe's Pizza Parlor, where you go to the pizza parlor. If you don't like the service, you don't like the sauce, you don't like the crust, you go to Giuseppe's Pizza Parlor. When you're the victim of a crime, it occurs in a certain jurisdiction.
Right. You got nowhere else to
You
go.
go to that jurisdiction, they turn you away. No other jurisdiction's going to do it.
Right.
And so when you have this, I hate to say it because the civil service was good to me, but it's a civil service mentality sometimes. I get the same paycheck whether I take 10 reports today or no reports today. So you got people that, you know, I say to those people, don't do a public service job if that's your attitude. Right. You know, do something else for a living,
Right.
please, because you're
Absolutely.
doing people a great disservice.
Mr. Nygaard, I thank you for coming in.
Listen, Bob is doing a public service. And I think you know this story because I've told it to you. But years ago, prior to Seinfeld, I was not a known entity. There was no Wikipedia to look anybody up. My wife and I had unexplainable infertility. And we had done the in vitro route, but we had not been successful. But we had moved to California, and we were meeting a whole new set of doctors. And we didn't know, do we want to go down this road? Maybe it's just silly. I don't know. And we had talked to a bunch of doctors. And there was one guy that we thought, well, if we were going to do it, might be. Anyway, my mother-in-law goes, you know, there was this psychic in New York that I used to go to. Why don't you just see him? It's like $200. It's not that big a deal. Just go see him. He's pretty famous. His name is Frank Andrews. He's since passed away. We go down to this brownstone in Greenwich Village. Frank Andrews, he's got a 3-story brownstone he works in. And he's a tiny little guy that kind of sounds like Truman Capote. He has kind of like a thing like a little drawl and a little nasal. And he raises Papillon dogs in the bill. And we go in. Now, other than we're Phyllis's daughter and son-in-law, that's all he knows
they
about
don't know
us.
anything.
Right.
Okay.
And he goes in and we sit down and he goes, okay, this is really strange. I don't work like this. I do cards and I have crystals, but he said, it's like someone's yelling into my head. So I'm just going to tell you what I'm hearing. I don't know what it means. If it means anything to you, great. You've been trying to get a project going. It has not been successful. And you've just met some people that you're considering bringing onto the project and maybe you're not sure. There's a guy whose name is either Peter or Paul. I get them confused. And it could be a last name like Peterson. If you do the project with that person, it'll be successful. Well, the guy that we had kind of gone, we like this guy, is Dr. Richard Paulson, who we came out of this meeting with this guy and we went, well, you want to try it with Paulson? I mean, he picked that name out of the ether. And Paulson, created my two children. This guy knew nothing about us. That's where he went to. That's how he described it. And I go, I can't explain that. I don't know how to.
He's talking about a film project.
It doesn't matter.
Because you're.
No, I know. And there's
Again,
1,000 guys named Peter or Paul, and it could be anything. But it was one of those things.
God bless. I'm thrilled that you believe it. I'm thrilled that you have your lovely wife, lovely kids. Happy for Paulson. Happy for the Truman Capote
A friend to this day.
Happy for the dog. Happy for the 2 dogs, the Papillon dogs. I think it's mostly complete BS. Now, that isn't to say that some people have empathy for others, and if you get quiet and really listen to people, you can pick up stuff. but that you're sensitive, or you're
I
this or
also think
or
that,
you can
that
watch how
thoughts have
present they are.
energy, and some people might be able to pick up
Yeah,
on that.
yeah,
kind of
but
thing.
then you'd be able to
But
pick
I
up
always
in
think
an
that's sort
MRI.
of like
Yeah,
mind reading as
I don't
opposed to
so.
predicting the future.
Let's go to
kind of thing.
Guggenheim.
Guggenheim.
What are you
Wow,
doing?
look at this. He's got the fez.
He's got
and
a
what
fez.
is happening here? Oh my.
I've been doing, I've been doing a lot of reading. Jason.
Simsalabim.
I got a lot of energy. I got my tarot cards here. Jason, I'm feeling something. We got the king
Oh,
of
sure,
coins.
King of Coins. Yeah.
I'm saying that there's an S
Yeah.
in money
Sucker.
of yours that you.
Hold on, Jay.
No.
Hold on, Jason. I have an envelope. In the envelope, it's
Yeah.
no longer
The
on
winner
the
is
show.
Michael Richards.
No longer, no longer on the show. No longer on the show. Let's. Now, how could dumb question here? Dumb question here.
Yeah.
Why do you have that hat?
He was in a production of Bye Bye Birdie. There's a big
It
Shriner
was my
number.
grandfather's
You went to a
hat.
hat
Oh,
store.
there you go,
You went
okay.
to a hat store and they said you need something with some height.
Yeah, I'm looking at,
Yeah.
there's a lot of sun in Florida.
Is that
I
your
wanna
favorite
keep it out
ball
of my
team?
eyes.
What is that? What
Well,
is
you
that?
didn't ask Bob why he had his hat. I mean, Well, it's in.
David.
I actually.
Oh, my gosh.
I actually have a few things. I got a few things today.
I can't. You forget it. I can't get over that hat.
No, I want to hear. Go ahead.
my
Dave.
God.
I take it off, but I think there's like a line on my
yeah,
forehead.
sure.
It is a look that I'll
You don't
never
want, yeah,
unsee.
sure. You don't want to look
Oh,
bad.
my
Go ahead.
gosh.
You don't want no, right? That would be silly, right?
Yeah.
So, according to Statista research, the fortune teller industry is approaching $2.5 billion annually.
Yeah.
$2.5 billion annually.
How do they know
Now-
that? Are these guys reporting taxable income?
No,
What
these
are
are
they-
these are ones that had the good outcome. These are people who didn't feel ripped off.
Okay.
The ripped off one is $15 billion.
Yeah. Well, you got to listen. There's apps. There's the stuff.
I know,
on
no,
the
but
Sure,
wait.
yeah.
But Jason
on the
got a good
internet.
point. So I'm a fortune teller. I have a shop in Brentwood next to the Baskin Robbins. And at the end of the year, I'm reporting my earnings.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Wow.
If you
I have
accept
$3 million
credit
in
cards,
unreported
Wow.
cash that I've scammed from people. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
all right. Good point.
$2.5 billion. Yeah.
Yeah. Billy. So as Bob was saying, that it is illegal in certain states like Oklahoma, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and New York. But there are places like Massachusetts where, get this, you can get a license. You have to be licensed if you're going to be a fortune teller in some states like Massachusetts. And I actually looked at, so what does that entail? It's basically nothing. You give the state about $200 and you have your license. I mean, there's no they're no like, can you think of the letter blue or
Yeah,
whatever
right,
it is? Like
right.
they don't do anything like that. And there's also free speech considerations. It used to be illegal
Right,
in
makes sense.
California, but then in 1984 there was a case, Spiritual Psychic Science Church versus Azusa, where the appellate courts struck down the California law, saying there were First Amendment issues. So there you go. And Peter, you had asked me to take a look as far as looking at these licensing agreements that people are going on TV and
Right.
interacting with us. Well, I don't want to use a name, but I was able to find one of these license agreements that at least one psychic uses, and I'll read a line from the thing. It says, from the contract, due to differing opinions regarding psychic abilities, all services are offered for entertainment purposes.
There you
only.
go. So
That was buried
That makes
in
sense.
all the mumbo jumbo of all this type of stuff. So, well, I mean, that's all you want to do. I did have something, if you were interested in doing psychic stuff, I do readings. So, I could do that. I know, Peter, you do too, but there's actually a choice. You could do tarot cards. You could do numerology. There's something called claromancy, which involves throwing dice and casting lots to reveal yes and no answers. Of course, there's astrology. There's scrying using a crystal ball. There's palm reading, of course. There's tea leaf reading, necromancy, speaking with the dead. There's also something called naviology, which is reading moles, scars, birthmarks, etc. Palm reading is sort of in that area. And then there's something, and this is my favorite one, is the oniromancy, which is the practice of doing fortunes through analyzing your dreams.
Okay,
Oh,
wow.
well, that was Jung.
Yeah.
That was a, he was a
Hold on one second.
Jungian.
Hold on one
one.
second. Come here.
There you go.
Yeah, you reading my
There's a
mole? Yeah.
You're going to Broadway.
Oh my God! You just read a liver spot.
The problem is you're going to Broadway, but it's not still like
My liver spot says you're going to die within the next 5 to 10 years. I mean,
you're going to go to Broadway, but you're dying on stage, and you've died on stage many times. David, thank you.
Wow.
I think that we all decided you must wear that hat every single time you come on. It's Guggenheim. Wow.
It's a good hat. It's a good
It's a
hat.
good hat.
It's a
Where do you keep it?
fantastic
Where do you
hat.
keep it?
I do. I have a hat box.
There you go.
Especially
Of course you
hat
do.
box for it.
All right, so I will save the psychic
smells terrible.
readings for another another episode. We'll do a shorty where Laurie will arrange strangers to call and get them lined up. We'll do
I'm gonna make a prediction. I'm gonna read the future. You ready? It'll never happen. That's my prediction.
I can hear Laurie laughing. through
That's
the
my
thing.
prediction.
And my prediction is Laurie better make it happen.
I can't tell you how many things you've said. You know what we're going to do? We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do this and that. It's all sitting in a file of I call the file things that will never happen. Ideas Peter had.
Did we launch this podcast?
that will.
Did we launch this? Did this happen?
So okay. We also had lunch. I mean, I
That
don't
happened
understand.
too.
There are
Let's
things
make a
we
list.
do.
You know what?
That are not in the
Mr.
file.
Here's what
this
I
is
see.
one of the things.
What I say, you're going to continue
that
to be
will-
negative
that
and
I
then
think
die.
will be in the file.
You're going to be negative and then die.
You're not going to do a short
yeah,
episode
we will.
where you do
we will.
cold readings.
100% we will.
How much do you want to bet?
Well, Laurie has to do it, so there you go. We'll
How much you want to bet?
Lori.
$100.
$100.
Yeah, Laurie, you better get this done.
$100 to charity. If we do it,
Wait, whoa, who
if we
said
do
charity?
Let me tell you
I'm
something.
kidding, I'm kidding.
If we do it within the next 6 months,
We better do it the next time that we're recording.
Okay,
Why not?
next
How
time we're
hard is that?
recording.
Look at your face. He's so David. Can you make a prediction about Jason? He's a man holding anger. Look at David. Wait,
here's,
look.
here's
let's
David's prediction. Welcome to Really No Really with Peter Tilden.
let's ask him while he's got the hat on. He's much more credible with the hat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
By the way, I think we got our Really No Really hats. Logo hats. No other show has a fez.
That's right.
Goodbye, everybody. Really? No, really. That's your second thing, Laura. We need to get the psychic episode, and we need the Really No Really fez.
Yeah, the fez hats. Get on that, would you, for God's sake?